Good afternoon, all. So, I have with me Rohit Kumar Singh, sir, who is Additional Chief Secretary from Government of Rajasthan for the Health and Family Welfare Department. So, we'll speak to him about how healthcare department is working on the COVID situation in Rajasthan. What are some new initiatives and what are the future plans? Thank you, sir, for joining Economic Times Government Division.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So, how has been the experience? How has been the last 2 months in the COVID situation for Rajasthan government so far?
So I think you are interviewing me on the right day. Today is almost the 100th day after the first case emerged in Rajasthan. So I still recall that there was an Italian group of tourists. They were traveling all over Rajasthan, and when they finally landed in Jaipur en route Agra and Delhi, and then back to Italy. So in Jaipur, one of them suffered from some symptoms of flu, and then he was taken to Fortis Hospital in Jaipur, and then Fortis realized that this is coronavirus, and they shifted to our government SMS hospital. And then at that time, we didn't have a single testing facility in Rajasthan. So we had to take the samples to National Institute of Virology, Pune. And from that day of zero, testing capability in Rajasthan, as we speak today on the 100th day, probably it's 25,000 tests we can do per day, and we can, collect as many samples as well. So it's been tough. The tourist thing, since they had traveled all over from Mandawa to Bikaner to Jaisalmer to Jodhpur to Udaipur to Jaipur, so we had to quickly, run through an internal algorithm of fumigating, sanitizing those hotels, contact tracing those people, because this Italian couple had turned positive. So we had done some homework, and then things subsided, and then two things happened. One, Bhilwara, where one of our doctors tested positive. So he was working in a huge hospital, probably the city's biggest hospital in Bhilwara, and that created panic. I think it was 17th, 18th March, and we were sitting in this office only 9:30 p.m. And this was the first time it was happening here. And we almost panicked because, having an infected tourist and having a doctor getting infected are two different things. Because doctor is, participating in healthcare in a public facility, and he's also doing OPD at home. And these patients were spread across the district. So we had a quick conversation with the district collector. I said, you have to completely lock down. This is before the country went to lockdown. So he did a big curfew thing there, and then we started contact tracing very aggressively. So we started surveillance. We formed some 3,000 teams. They went all over to Bhilwara town. But we realized that at that hospital, there were patients coming from other nearby villages and towns. So we had to fan out our teams to nearby places. So we did very aggressive containment, which later we called ruthless containment, which became a word that is being now used across the country. So we said that we have to do ruthless containment because we cannot let it spread, number one. Number two, at the same time, we cannot, inconvenience people to a great extent. So you realize that, this is a different kind of emergency. This is a health pandemic, and you have to keep people on your side. There has to be buy-in by the people for your strategy. They have to cooperate. If they become your adversaries, then you're dead. I mean, you can't do anything. So I'm belaboring this point because when you impose a curfew or a lockdown in a city or a town and a village, you have to make sure that people get essential supplies, people who are stranded get food, people get medicines, vegetables, milk, everything like that. Unless you do that, people will start, getting irritated. Then they'll become your adversaries. So we had to. It's a very tricky balance. It is very easy to say it now in an interview, but very difficult to implement on ground. So I think my district administration, Bhilwara, did a good job. They continued to maintain essential supplies, and we could contain Bhilwara. But then something happened in Jaipur, and there were travelers who traveled back from the Middle East, and we have a walled city area in Jaipur called Ramganj. And then it started. One person, he was supposed to have been in quarantine. He flouted that. He roamed around on a motorbike with somebody at his back. These 2 people then infected 24 other people, and then it suddenly spread, because it can go exponentially if you're not, cautious. So then it spread, and then it started, happening in other districts. So from that one case on 2nd of March, uh, as of now, as we speak, I've had 11,368 cases, but there's nothing to worry on that, because out of that, 8,502 have been cured. So if you see the active cases, I just have 2,610 active cases. Now, these are the cases which have tested COVID positive and are undergoing treatment. Now, out of these, almost 300 are asymptomatic healthy people. So they are isolated at home and they are getting treatment at home. The remaining about 2,300 are at our facilities, and we have 407 facilities. So we have done a lot of advanced planning. So we, unlike what I see on television about Delhi, Mumbai, I mean, there's no shortage of healthcare institutions and facilities. I can give you some numbers. I have 407 facilities. I have about 44,000 beds available. I have 8,100 beds with oxygen. I have 1,700 ICU beds. I have about 900 ventilators, which are now available. And God forbid they be used. But in case there is an immediate exponential outbreak, we are ready for that. So we will not have the situation of Bombay or Delhi where people have to run around for facilities. These are identified. These are facilities of 3 kinds, which Government of India specified, up from the hospital to the COVID care centers, and these are being used. We are in constant touch with our district collectors. I think video conferencing has been used extensively over 100 days. And the good thing is that our Chief Minister, Mr. Gehlot, reviews it every day. And I'm not exaggerating. It's like sometimes twice a day. For example, today's review meeting has already happened at 11 a.m. That's why we couldn't do this interview in the forenoon. It's a very detailed review, and its review is not only on the health side. Of course, it starts from COVID. Then there are other issues, or how we are supplying essential commodities to people, how migrant laborers are being handled. And the good thing is that in addition to the district collectors and the government machinery, our Honorable Chief Minister is video conferencing with religious leaders, with all political parties, with expert doctors. In fact, one day there was an 18-hour video conference with all the MLAs. So we have 200 MLAs. They were sitting at different locations. So the good thing is that in such a pandemic, there is no political animosity, between the political leadership of both the parties, all parties, and everybody is on board that this has to be taken care of. And I'm very glad that even Government of India is very cooperative, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The moment we raise an issue, of a resource or a health issue, they immediately respond. Madam Secretary, Mrs. Preeti Sudan, is extremely cooperative. I mean, you cannot hope for a better secretary in Government of India. So I think from the government side, preparation, strategy, testing, etc., we are all doing well. The problem is now when you start to, loosen the lockdowns and because you want economic activity to happen, there was like Honorable Prime Minister also says, Jeevan ke saath Jeevika bhi important hai. So the livelihoods are also important. So you have to start economic activity. But now the responsibility, the ball is in people's court. So if you are traveling, for your daily jobs or your a factory or any business establishment, you have to exercise, adequate caution. You have to wear a mask. You have to sanitize your hands, wash your hands, and you have to maintain social distancing. I think the ball is totally in people's court, and I have seen that the tendency to wear masks is there, not 100%, but most people are wearing masks. So because this has to continue, like all the experts in Delhi and all over the world say, we have to start thinking of living with Corona. So it has to become part of our lifestyle, social distancing, masks, etc., etc. In terms of how we are comparing with other states in the country, we're doing probably the second or third highest tests in the country. And as we speak, I've done 530,000 tests. In terms of tests per million population, the country's average is about 3,800. We have done the double, almost not double, maybe 80% more, 6,660 we do per million. So we are only behind probably Delhi and Tamil Nadu. Otherwise, we are at the top. In terms of case fatality rate, all India it's 2 point. That's the death rate, 2.8%. Ours is 2.27%. Number of deaths has been 256. We do a very detailed medical and social audit of deaths. So out of, for example, deaths out of 256, we analyze as to whether they were suffering from other underlying conditions, which we call comorbidities. So about 70% people are suffering from comorbidities. Now, our problem set is the remaining 30%, because if they had no other condition, then why did they die? They die because of coronavirus. So we do a very detailed audit. There are about 47 people who were brought dead to hospital. So we are overly transparent in our reporting. Even if somebody has died, for example, we had a case dying of suicide or accident, but when the dead body is brought to the hospital, we still test for corona positive from the dead body. And if it's positive, we report it as corona death. So there are about 50 such cases almost which have been brought dead to hospital. So we, after 3 weeks of the death, because that's the protocol, we send our district and field teams to their houses. We check and we call them, L1, L2, L3, as to, what was the reason why did they have symptoms and not report, or did they reach the hospital late, or did they reach the hospital but hospital delayed. So we do a very detailed analysis, not only for not for fault finding, but to take corrective measures, because our whole focus now is on saving lives and recovering people. So if you see the data, our recovery rate is now second highest in the country. Punjab, of course, is 95%. We are almost 75% as on this 12 noon today. So our recovery rate is 74.79%, which means that 3 out of 4 people have recovered. Our death rate is low. Case doubling rate, India is about 16-70 days. Ours is 22 days. So we are okay there. We have had a lot of inward movement of migrants. So we also tabulate that data as to how many migrants are tested positive. So if you see our entire set, about 3,200 migrants have tested positive as we speak. And many have recovered. So there's about, in our active case set, there are about 800 migrants. We are also totally focusing on non-COVID healthcare services. We realize that while everybody is focusing on COVID, let's not neglect cancer, diabetes, deliveries, immunization, other OPD. So we are focusing on that. And I'm very glad that only this morning, Government of India did a video conference with us around 12 noon, and they reviewed what we are doing on non-COVID issues. So they said that you are doing okay and please continue the work. A unique initiative in Rajasthan is, I think Honorable Chief Minister decided that we should be, when you impose a curfew, there is a restriction on movement. So in the curfew areas, people don't move. So suppose somebody is sick from something else. So where does he go? So what we did was we deployed 525 mobile vans with doctors, nurses, and free medicines. So these were not only in curfew areas, but in other rural areas also. Because when you are doing this red zone and orange zone and you're saying no public transport. So suppose I'm sick and I want to go to a hospital, but I don't have transport. So we said we'll take the OPD to your doorstep. This has been a big hit in Rajasthan. In fact, the Government of India and today's VC also appreciated this initiative. And just to give you some numbers, through these 525 plus vans, we have provided service to over 8.5 lakh people over last 20-30 days. So that has been a big success. And so we are okay. I think what any state should, what is our strategy? Our strategy is test aggressively, identify them early and treat them well and send them home. So we also launched something called Mission Lisa, which is Mission Life Saving. So what we have done is, in containment zones, we have 18 major outbreak areas in containment zone. We got Ayushman Bharat data because Rajasthan has had a good history of a robust health insurance scheme in the public sector for the last 4 or 5 years. So and it's all totally digital. So we have data on 1 crore families, which is almost 5 crore people, as to who went to a healthcare facility for what ailment. So what we did was we quickly did a search algorithm on our Ayushman Bharat data, and we identified vulnerable people living in curfew areas. So how did we define vulnerability? We said 60, 65, 70, 75 years and 80 plus. So we said, okay, this is vulnerable group. And then you further, sort that out, filter that out and say, okay, how many went to a health facility over last 4 years for respiratory illness, for a cardiac issue, for cancer, for tuberculosis, or for any other thing which makes this corona potentially, a comorbid thing. Then we extensively are using pulse oximeter. That, as you know, oxygen levels are very important in managing corona. So we have given, this is like a 2,000, 1,500 rupee device. So we given to all our workers. They go and check the oxygen levels of these vulnerable people once a day, or we have their telephone numbers. We talk to them, and we said, if you have symptoms, come to us. I monitor Mission Lisa every day at 5 p.m. from these 18 districts. We get data as to how many people which are vulnerable were touched by my team, how many were tested, what is happening to them, are they going to facilities. I think because of all this, we have been able to save lives. So I'm repeating it again. Rajasthan's main strategy is save lives. This is just a flu. People will, even if they get infected, they'll get cured. But we have to save the vulnerable, because if they have some other underlying conditions and they get flu, the other things should not precipitate and they should not die.
So I have two more small questions on this. So you spoke about the complete strategy, what you have done so far. Now we are in the process. I just want some more details. We are in a process of unlock one now, easing of lockdown. People will be traveling for tourism, for work. How do you plan to monitor the COVID situation in so much deeper areas or so much bigger cities like Jaipur, Udaipur, Jodhpur? What's the strategy right now?
So, as you very rightly said, it is very difficult for two reasons. One is because there'll be a lot of movement, and even if you issue guidelines, sometimes people either they are irresponsible, or I mean they forget to maintain social distance, or because it's very difficult to become part of your daily routine. The other thing is that when people are moving, you don't know, because 80% of my cases are asymptomatic. So somebody does not have khasi, bukhar, zukam symptoms, but he's maybe carrying corona. So all that screening of temperature and symptoms is taking us nowhere. So I think it's just a formality that we are doing, because 80 to 85% of my patients are asymptomatic. So it becomes even tougher. So what we are saying is, we call it SMS. S is for social distancing, M is for mask, and S is for sanitization and sabun se apna haath dhona. So I say, please follow SMS. And the moment you think you have symptoms, or the moment you think you are short of breath or anything, immediately report. So I think you're very right. At this moment, as I said, government has done its work. We have prepared, from testing, very aggressive testing, to care in case you test positive. In case you're traveling from outside, we have quarantine centers are ready. They are being very well managed. The challenge is now for people to follow the guidelines. But we are saying, if you don't follow the guidelines, if you fall sick, we are ready. But please follow the guidelines. So it's very tough. It's like the helmet thing. I remember 10, 20, I don't know, maybe you were not born, 20, 25 years back, this helmet thing was new. And so it is to save the lives of the guy who's riding the two-wheeler. But, the government had to force, wear it, wear it, wear it. But then people also have to realize that, unless you wear a helmet, and suppose unfortunately we have an accident, you're going to die. So please wear a helmet. I think this is not to that extent, but to some extent, I see a similarity. And how it will become part of lifestyle. If you recall, India has had, malaria and other vector-borne diseases, dengue, and what is the other thing, swine flu and other diseases. So, what do you do with mosquitoes? India will have mosquitoes because the kind of tropical country we are, and the climate, etc., etc., the water thing. So you put good night in your offices, you put good night at home, you wear Odomos or whatever. So that has become part of your lifestyle. Either you use a mosquito net or whatever is available at home. I think similarly for COVID, I foresee that this mask, of course, you can wear a very fashionable mask which matches your shirt or suit or tie, whatever. So this will gradually become part of your lifestyle, and we will have to live with it because this virus is not going anywhere, at least for next 6 7 months. So all of us have to be careful.
Last question, one thing. So we want to talk about how useful was technology. So we are talking about governance, and we are talking about bringing new technologies like digital education, and we're talking about VC, video conferencing, and all. So how useful was technology in terms of this COVID battle for government of Rajasthan, and specifically for health department?
I think technology has worked wonders for us in this. I sometimes I discuss with my friends, even in my family, that even a simple thing like WhatsApp, I was telling them if WhatsApp was not there, what would we have done? All the data reports, all my medical health officer in the districts, even below that. So there are little groups. Then my group with the Honorable CM and Chief Secretary, where I report, issues that require their attention. Then a group with district collectors, a group with the home department, a group with my technology people. How, wonderfully WhatsApp has helped us maneuver this crisis. I cannot say. I wanted to write an op-ed. Maybe I'll send it to Economic Times once I write it. The other thing is, this monitoring. When the migrant movement started, we said, okay, this is the portal. If you are stuck in Bombay and you want to come to Jaipur, put your phone number and everything there, and the reason you want to come here, we'll manage. 11 lakh plus people, registered on the portal. Can you believe this number? If there was no technology, we couldn't have done it. And then, even within Rajasthan, suppose you are in Thane near Mumbai, and you want to go to Nagaur. So, the origin point, the destination point, and then we did the matching when the trains had to be started, buses had to be started. So this helped us do this sorting and matching very well. And, I think this video conferencing thing, if I shudder to think that if VC was not there, how, because in the times of crisis, in the times of pandemic, the communication becomes the key. And communication in the times of crisis is as important as providing medicines and ventilators. I mean, take my word for this. I have done a course at Harvard on communication, and I was told we did some tutorials on crisis communication. I never thought in my life I will ever use it, but we are using it now. And communication is the key. A chief minister telling a district collector कि मेरे पूरे राज्य में कोई आदमी भूखा नहीं सोना चाहिए, and अगर कोई migrant दिख रहा है उसको कैंप में ले जाओ, खाना खिलाओ. This message coming from his own mouth in so many words makes a hell of a difference. We can write letters that this is CM's intention, but once you are face to face and he's saying it there, it hits you and get nailed into your head. So I think communication is very important, and technology has played an amazing role. We do video conferencing with Government of India almost every day. I just got a notice while we were doing your interview that tomorrow Cabinet Secretary is taking a meet VC at 10 a.m. So it has helped. And I wonder what we would have done had technology of this level not been there, including this interview on Zoom. I mean, we had used Zoom like once a year, Skype, 10 times a year. But now we use it 5 times a day. So the world has changed.
Thank you so much for talking to Economic Times. It was great talking to you.